following review contains spoilers and also a brief rundown of the Saw franchise.
You want mercy? Play by the rules.
Saw was a low-budget filmmaking marvel from James Wan and Leigh Whannell back when it first came out in 2004. It accomplished a lot on a low budget, and it managed to be a really effective psychological thriller. And following that, the Saw franchise kind of descended this gradual decline into hell on a chairlift, where it never really had a sharp drop in quality, but each subsequent film descended more and more into just convoluted lunacy than the last. Saw 2 was definitely not as good as the first one. It still was quite enjoyable, and Tobin Bell delivers an excellent performance as John Kramer. Saw 3 is kind of a mixed bag in that half of the story centered around Jigsaw and Amanda is amazing, and the other half centered around Jeff's game is I don't fucking give a shit. But overall, the first trilogy is fairly good. And then the second trilogy of Saws 4 through 6 is just silly. But at that point, it kind of knew it was being silly. It focused a lot less on the story, a lot more on the traps, and for what it was, it enjoyed itself, but it was not particularly good. Hoffman was just an incredibly less effectual version of Jigsaw. After the character of John Kramer's death, the franchise just got progressively sillier and sillier. 5 was definitely a fun time. I really enjoyed the overall story arc of Hoffman versus Strom. It was really interesting. 6 is dumb, but it's fun, and it seems to know it's dumb. And then 7 is just a fucking train wreck. Saw, Saw 3, Saw 5, Saw 2, Jigsaw, Saw 4, Saw 6, Saw 7. And now we have this film, Jigsaw, by the Spearig brothers, starring Matt Passmore and Callum Keith Rennie, and it's, you know, a continuation of the Saw franchise after the final chapter of the Saw franchise, which is just, it's silly, and do we even care anymore, really? It's dumb. This movie's dumb. It's a Saw film, so I expected it to be dumb. I expected it to be just, you know, the franchise hasn't really cared since part 3, so I didn't really expect much love to go in this one, but it seemed almost like they were trying to pass this up as more of a soft reboot, and it definitely could function as one. It's just more silliness, let's be real. There's a lot I really didn't particularly like about this movie, in all honesty. I mean, at the end of the day, it's better than Saw 4, 6, and 7, but it's just as dumb, and it's once you hit the twist in this movie, you want to like slam your face into the chair in front of you, because it's so dumb, and it's granted it's the same as every other fucking Saw twist. Whoa, Jigsaw has a fucking accomplice. Crazy. There's a lot I want to delve into with this movie, and it's hard to without spoiling things. But the gist of it is that Jigsaw feels like part of what made the Saw franchise so good to me is they always felt very dirty and very gritty, and that's a lot due to the cinematography and the style of editing, and all of that is really gone here. This feels like someone tried to remake Saw on a big budget and didn't understand any of the things that made the Saw franchise so fun and gave it its own style. This film is very glossy, it's very clean looking, and that alone is just feels wrong in a Saw movie. The quick cutting editing, which is somewhat nauseating sometimes in the first films, is also gone here. It's all very standard editing and standard cinematography, and I didn't like that. This movie opens with a fucking police chase, and it's just doesn't feel right. It takes away all the things that have become staples of the Saw franchise. It takes away the opening trap sequences. It takes away the film ending with someone saying game over. It redesigned Billy slightly, and he looks kind of weird. Even the gore in this film feels very fake in that it's just... There was something very gritty and raw about all the Saw movies, good or bad, of 1 through 7. There was always something about the gore that felt very just dirty and gross and real, and that's all absent from this movie, and it's a real bummer because you can tell they had the budget to make that shit look really good, and they just... It feels like they half-assed it. Honestly, this movie is, like, more than anything, it's a retelling of Saw 5. You've got 5 people in a trap, and they have to work together to survive, and there's a whole side story going on with the cops chasing who they think might be Jigsaw, and it's you've seen it all before. If you've seen any of the Saw films, you've seen this movie, Like I said, it's more enjoyable than 4, 6, and 7, but that's not saying much considering those are definitely on the low end of the franchise. This movie is just kind of generic Saw film in that it's just... it hits the beats you need it to hit, and you're going to see it, and then you're going to forget you saw it a day later. It's really bland, and just... there's no reason for it to exist, in my opinion. We didn't need a soft restart on the Saw franchise, especially after the final chapter. Overall, it was just sort of a disappointment to me. I'm going to talk about the twist now, because every Saw movie, you gotta have a fucking twist. And shocker, the twist in this movie is the same twist as fucking Saw 2. The trap you're following the whole movie actually took place however fucking many years before. And those people in that trap that you're following the whole movie are actually like Jigsaw's first victims, and Tobin Bell shows up as John Kramer, and he's been testing them the whole time, but that doesn't actually make sense, because if you are going by the continuity that's been established in the other films, he killed the dude who killed his unborn baby first, but this movie goes out of its way to be like, no, this was before all the other traps and all the other games, and that's just weird considering that completely redefines Jigsaw's motives and just makes him kind of an asshole. And granted, I mean, like, he's a fucking lunatic anyway, but what made him interesting in the original 7 films was that despite how crazy he was and despite the shit he put people through, he had this weird twisted sense of morality, and making him just kill a bunch of Randys before he even snapped in the original continuity is really strange, and I don't like that, and it really just fucks up his character, in my opinion. I called who the fucking present day accomplice was like that. It's really pretty obvious the second you pick up on what the twist is going to be, and I don't really care anything about him at all. What's his purpose? I mean, like, why did Jigsaw need another accomplice? He had Amanda, he had Hoffman, he had apparently Dr. fucking Gordon. Where were all of them? We literally get one mention of Jill in this movie, and that's it. And nobody else is, like, name dropped at all. No one talks about Amanda Young or Hoffman or any of the people who were known Jigsaw associates, and no one suspects them at all. I guess because Hoffman, like, you know, Amanda's dead and Hoffman's questionably dead. But my question is, when did this whole trap that we're following this movie take place? Because if it did take place prior to all the other games, why the fuck is he... How did he manage this? His first trap that you see him make in the movies when he kills Cecil is super rudimentary with just kitchen knives, and it falls apart before it's even completed. And somehow, if this takes place before that, he managed to build this intricate system of chainsaws and like a fucking grain silo and these piano wires that are attached to pressure sensors and wrap around you and cut your leg off if you pull a left. How did he manage to do this, but he couldn't build a simple knife chair to keep Cecil in and try and teach him a fucking lesson? Which, even the lesson in this movie is just fucking warped and doesn't make any sense. This whole movie is just very, very weird. I don't get it. The acting is all whatever. It's not terrible. It's not good. It's what you'd expect from a Saw movie. The cinematography is way too clean and way too shiny for a movie like this. The gore is and the story is just... I mean, the story, I can't even complain because I did have fun with it. It's like every other Saw movie after part 1. It's just completely convoluted, and it makes no fucking sense the second you try and think about it at all. If you're a fan of the other Saw movies after part 3, and like you enjoy this franchise and you want to see it keep going, you'll probably like this. I don't think it's the worst in the franchise by any means. It's just kind of really middle ground for me and mediocre, and I'm going to say that Jigsaw is just meh. I'm definitely not going to remember it in like a week, and I'm probably never going to watch this movie again. I have no real care to. It's fine. Tobin Bell does a good job as Jigsaw, and it's nice to see him like in his fucking like black robes and pig mask shit again. But like, if this movie really wanted to do something good, it would have tried to reinvent the franchise and do things that are unexpected, and instead it recycles twists from other movies, and it gives you the same Saw movie that you've seen 6 other times at this point. And it just feels like a waste. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and you can click down there and like, comment, subscribe, and have a very happy Halloween. Thanks.